Hello, 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 you guys. It is Ebony. It is I. And today we're going to talk about Officer Tatum. So I always do my best when you guys ask me about somebody I don't already know. I don't look up any information about them. I honestly don't even like to look up pictures too much. But I don't know. This one I just had to look in. So I have an idea of how he looks. I know his birthday. Um, I did see part of the interview with him and the friend, but I actually haven't watched it in depth. So I have an idea of who he is, but I do not have a very strong semblance. I don't know exactly his views in depth. So we're just gonna look at this and organically see what happens. The person who asked me about him did say that he was I don't know, like shucking and jiving was implied. So let's see. I do think that Officer Tatum has a prejudiced take on Nolan, and because there is a lot of information missing about exactly what happened and what exactly, like, just what the situation truly entails, I think he's definitely running with this idea that I can further derail the conversation. I think that's really his intention, to derail the conversation. I don't think that he necessarily I don't think he even necessarily believes in what he's saying. I do think that he is kind of a protector of white supremacy, and I do think he sees kind of whiteness as a virtue, hypothetically, allegedly. There's a part of me that also feels like he's already said, I think that he's trying to kind of rely on plausible deniability, and he might feel like he's talked himself into a hole where he doesn't want to be wrong, and so that might be why he really has a vested interest in causing diversion in this conversation. Though a lot of people are not buying it, like everyone knows something strange had to have happened, right? Because there would at least be a 1+1=2 answer if it was just an accident, right? And because it's not that, and because energies are kind of shifty and dodgy, we know that something else probably happened. I think he also believes that. I do think that he understands. I feel like Officer Tatum, hypothetically, allegedly, might believe that I he was talking. I think I heard something about him saying that like Nolan was drunk and he caused this. I think that he absolutely believes that Nolan drowned, and I think he absolutely believes that there was foul play. I just think that, like I said, he's trying to use a plausible deniability to protect these kids. There's a part of me that also feels like his anti-blackness is unchecked. I feel like this is the kind of person where if he was like a teacher or he worked in some place where there might be people who have arguments, I think that he's someone who tends to always default to the white person or the lighter person in the situation, the person who fits his ideals. If he's a conservative, if he's ever said these things, I think he has a tendency to realize that he always defaults to whoever kind of fits his narrative, even if they're dead ass wrong. This is the kind of person where if they were a pastor, they would defend like someone who did some heinous shit, in the congregation before they would believe a mother who's like, "Oh, I don't want that person around my child," hypothetically, allegedly. Like wherever he sees himself in people is where he tends to defend, and he will defend to a fault. I know that he's a Taurus. I just wonder what the rest of his birth chart looks like, because this kind of gives me. I always say Leo and Sagittarius specifically have this crazy tendency to. They will talk somebody off of a ledge, just not really telling people the truth. Like they will put the battery in horrible people's backs. I think he has a tendency to do that to people to the point where you know what's really funny? I think ironically, he could kind of talk these kids off the ledge. Like for example, there was a kid who came out. I'm assuming it was after his interview. I don't know if it was the same kid who was in their interview, but I feel like he could give really bad advice to the point where some of these people's stories fall apart because of what he said or what he's done. Like I think that what he's done could actually be hurtful. Like you ever seen, like, I'm thinking about on Real Housewives. There's been a bunch of these situations where someone's in a legal situation and they say that, like, I'm thinking about Juan and Robin, right? Where like, Juan was going through his Title IX. Oh my God, perfect fucking example. Juan was going through his Title IX thing where basically, essentially, I think on his team, because he taught college basketball, he had a student who was accused of assaulting somebody, I believe. And instead of reporting it, I think that Juan kind of hid it, trying to cover for the boy. And so when they found out, he ended up getting I believe that was the reason why he ended up getting fired. But obviously it results in legal action because, like, obviously you're going against the victim number one. Whether or not it actually happened, it's your job to report these things. That's the point of fucking Title IX. So like, it wasn't just a slap in the face of the victim, but it was quite literally against what he was allowed to do with his job. And so it obviously he ended up in a lot of legal troubles, and obviously he ended up losing his job.
Okay. Robin, Juan has been in the news lately because a Coppin State player of his on the team came to him to report being sexually harassed by the assistant coach, and he failed to report it. What can you tell us about this, and how's it affecting your family?
It's so hard. Like, I want to be careful because it's a lawsuit and blah, 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 and all of that. But I have to say that the things that have been alleged, the wrongdoings that have been alleged that Juan supposedly did are not true. And I know that he handled the situation exactly the way I would want somebody to handle a situation for my own children.
You're not taking away what the victim is alleging about the harassment.
I'm not disputing the catfishing and whatever else went on between those two young men at all. I am saying the wrongdoings that they are saying that Juan did not happen. And it's just unfortunate that Juan was kind of used as clickbait to really push this story.
It's definitely one of those things where it's like he has no business defending half of these things, and he loses a lot, or he causes other people to lose a lot by what he feels like he can sweep under the rug, or he can just, like, because he said that he put the battery in their back, he feels like, oh, you're gonna be okay. No, this is literally the kind of person, like, this is like, for example, if you do some crazy fucked up shit and you know that you're going to jail, he's looking at you like, oh, it's not that bad. Yeah, I think that he's very afraid. He's kind of, what is the word? He's contrarian. I think that he's very afraid and would be very ashamed to be very wrong about this. And so, like I said, he pushes the narrative in the way that he wants it to go, quite literally because he wants it to go that way. I do think he's going to be quite embarrassed, like, by the outcome of this. It might even be a thing. This reminds me of a situation I had in high school where basically it was like this mock trial. It wasn't a push class. It was a bunch of evil racist people in there. But like I had this one classmate who, like, they were on the opposing side as me, and they ended up, what happened was we ended up getting like a quote unquote conviction or a sentence for a person, but the sentence was, so it was like community service. So it's like, they end up doing, like, they end up quote unquote paying for it, but the payment is like literally a slap on the wrist. And so he was like, you didn't really, like, you won technically, but you didn't really win because you barely, because we barely had to pay for that. And so he might feel validated in that sense, where it's like, okay, maybe they find these kids guilty, but they don't necessarily serve a lot of jail time. And I said before, I thought the brunt of whatever might happen to them might be kind of vigilante or street justice, that's in quote unquote karma throughout their life, but it probably wouldn't be a lot of legal repercussion, if any. Like, I didn't personally, even if these kids get in trouble, I didn't really see them serving, like, I don't see anybody serve. I think I had said 5, but in general, I really don't see any of these children serving any longer than like 10 years. I really don't. And so he might kind of feel vindicated or laugh about that. I'm thinking about Andrew Tate. Like, he's somebody who's been to jail, or, has been accused of a bunch of stuff. This time it might stick, but there have been several times where he's quote unquote gotten away from, because he's done heinous things. We know, hypothetically, allegedly, we know that he's done heinous things. So, like, him, being able to walk away to the point where he's being retried again. This is probably like the second or third time where they're trying to kind of get him on like assault charges. And that's what I'm saying. We're hoping that it sticks. And we know that he's a strange person, but we don't necessarily have all the evidence to prove it. Even like in young Philly, for example, everybody knows that Philly was a strange man and he probably did something to that girl. But like when it comes to the sexual part of it, it's quite hard to prove. He just feels like whatever that they're trying to prove that these kids did is so hard to prove that even if they did it, they're going to get a slap on the wrist because there's just not enough to really put them away. One thing I will say is that he does not necessarily like, especially if this kind of fucks up his name or his, I don't know if he had a whole channel before this. I've personally never heard of him. I'm not saying that he's a nobody, but the way that people perceive him after this might end up quite negative, and he might be very unhappy about that as well. Like, where, like I said, even if he did win, the kind of, it's like a scarlet letter. It's like I said with these kids, they might not necessarily serve in literal prison or whatever, but they will have to deal with repercussions in other karmic kind of ways. And so he might not necessarily like that, even if he was quote unquote right, or nothing really happened, right? I think he's absolutely a man. I think he's absolutely a white supremacist. I think he is very of the manosphere. And what's very interesting? I don't think that Officer Tatum, whatever his name is, I don't think that he necessarily inherently believes certain people. And I'm gonna keep on saying this. I don't think that he believes that certain people are subhuman to others. I think that he is more focused on making sure that certain people get things. Like, I see like a woman here, and to me, this kind of feels like this is not someone who feels that women are inferior to him. It's, I want to make sure that women do not have the same rights as me, because I don't actually believe that. It's like, because a lot of the, especially, he's black, or is he half black or something? I highly doubt that he dates black women, for example, right? But like, for example, a talking point in the black community is how, there are a lot of black men who are severely misogynistic, but they don't bring a lot to the table. There are a lot of women who are taking care of these same men who fucking hate women.
One of my old coworkers, he gonna pull me to the side one day and he like, I don't really like when women tell me what to do. Mind you, I'm part of management. So it's like, oh. And he's like, yeah, a lot of the times when you tell me stuff to do, I have to go take a smoke if you notice. And I'm like, oh, because I've never noticed that he go take a smoke every time I tell him to do something. Then he's like, I would just appreciate it if you could be more feminine towards me. We're at work. Why do I need to be more feminine towards you?
And so he kind of gives me, I understand that these people are not only my equals, but they can actually be my superior. And so I want to put them in a position where they can't do that. So it's not because I believe that they can't. It's, I want to systemically make sure that you could not, especially if this is someone who is biracial or just has some very unique experiences with race that will cause this self-hatred. I think that it's almost like he wants to be punished for it. And so that's why he goes out of his way to do these certain things, Like he might have felt hatred, and so instead of being like, finding pride or whatever, he just kind of wants it to be eradicated because he can't deal with it. He can't deal with how people treat him. He just can't deal with how inhuman that he feels because he's internalized certain things. You can't pay your bills. A woman pays your bills. Instead of kissing her fucking feet and being like, women are great, you hate her because you can't do it for yourself. It's like the crazy backwards ways that men think. Okay. Yeah, I really don't think that he believes that. I think that he deals with an incredible amount of shame, but I do think that he is very willing to perpetuate white supremacist ideals. I think this is the kind of person who will not learn until it is actually him who is directly facing these things, especially if he feels like he's kind of insulated from it by being cool with white people until it's him. Especially if he might have like a racialized situation that may come up. This kind of reminds me of like white people who are on their deathbeds, like, oh, I shouldn't have done that, or they're like, oh, I see, the black kid that I murdered in fucking 1940 when I didn't think anyone was watching. Like, it's definitely going to be a point of regret and deep regret. I just don't know if it's going to be anytime soon, but it's going to be a deep regret. His pride is just in the way, and I think that obviously this world is kind of white supremacist, so like he feels like in a lot of ways he wins until he doesn't. I think he could be very shocked by the turning point for him, because he might feel like he kind of did himself in, or he can't dig himself out of the hole that he's got himself into. Especially if this is like, for example, he goes to a situation, like, it's not the first time you've ever heard of a black person being around a bunch of white people, then all of a sudden they mysteriously die, disappear, whatever. Like, until he's in his own situation of like get out, he's not really gonna feel the pain. I'm gonna be honest. I don't think Nolan's mother is inherently a grifter. I do think that she's enjoying a lot of the money that she's getting specifically. Um, I don't think she's even misusing it. I just think that she feels like she deserves emotional restitution, and so this is a way to pad it. I do think that she's very focused on making a lot of money right now. There's a part of me that feels like she's not doing this for nefarious reasons, but there's a part of me that also feels like I don't know if at some point in time this could turn nefarious. Like, with the Black Lives Matter movement, there was a lot of embezzlement that happened with that foundation, with that movement. So there's a part of me that feels like even if it doesn't necessarily begin as such, there's a part of me that feels like over time it could become that, especially if she finds herself becoming a social justice warrior. Like, I don't know. Because mind you, she's like Blasian, which, like, there's always this question of like, do people who date interracially, can they be thought leaders, especially in the black community? Can that be true of biracial people? I just really wonder her intentions. I think she has the purest of ideas, but there's a part of me that wonders if she might feel like she comes into real fame or real popularity or real celebrity, and she gets tied into that. I wonder what her sign is. I remember I guessed that Nolan was probably a fire sign. He ended up becoming a Leo. I honestly wonder if she's also a fire sign, or she just has some, like maybe like a Libra or even like a Pisces, like a sign that would kind of lean into getting a lot of public attention. Like at some point, I do think that fame or attention kind of becomes like a drug for her. So that's what I'm saying. It doesn't really, like, she might even low-key have an addictive personality, because there's a part of me that feels like at this current moment I do not believe that, but like in 5 years, if she's still doing social justice work, I would not put it above her to do certain things for money, right? I think that she understands that right now she's in a place of plausible deniability as well. I think that she understands that people are not necessarily going to question her too much, or they know there's a moral failing in questioning her, but at some point she might abuse that. Right. I'm not surprised. Like, I would not be surprised if, like I said, she's using substances or there is some addictive part of her personality. And she might, that's what I'm saying. Like, I doubt you'd be able to find this on the internet. I just would not be surprised if she's ever had an addiction before. Like, I would not be surprised if she has an addictive personality and this becomes like an addiction to her. I just heard this crazy scream that I hope is just people fucking around. I don't know if the camera picked that up. And I've said before, like, for example, I didn't know that Nolan's father did this, because I mentioned in his reading as well that his father, he might have kind of like a bad role model around him, and so some of the parents were preaching, like, I don't know what they said, like, we don't see color, or like they didn't really teach him to be hyper vigilant around these kinds of people, and so it kind of, like, there's like, I personally don't want to question them, but there are some statements around their perceptions of blackness and about race that can be a little bit strange. And so there's a part of me that feels like the husband might even encourage certain kinds of things over time. Like, I don't think that he would be above telling her to kind of monetize or capitalize in a certain kind of way, especially if he understands that she has certain propensities. He might not necessarily talk her off that ledge. Like, like I said, he might even have some strange opinions on race, especially because, like, it doesn't say a whole bunch because you married a biracial woman, but like, that's not to say that you don't feel a certain kind of way, because even though she's Asian, right, she's not necessarily black and white. There are a lot of black men who fetishize mixed race women and light skinned women. So, like, what I'm trying to say? That's why he might have been very confident to say the things that he said about race, because he feels a certain kind of way about race. Um, yeah, I just feel like he might feel like this is quote unquote their calling, or they came into some, a blessing because of his death. Like it becomes very strange over some point in time, hypothetically, allegedly. I'm not saying at this current moment she's wrong or she's being weird. I just feel like she has the ability to be weird over time, and the weirdness in her might take over because she really does seem like she struggles with some form of addiction. I don't care if this is even just like attention, like she's addicted to getting attention and being recognized and things like that. It might go to her head. I think that opportunity him to go back to him. I think that he hates black people. I think he hates his own blackness. I think that, like I said, in a lot of ways, he wants this to become a tangible thing. And there's a part of me that wonders, like, how Make America Again became a thing. There's a part of me that wonders, like, like the whole like didn't do nothing. If you don't know, like the whole Doja Cat situation, but just like really trying to paint black people as like liars, or like trying to downplay racialized things. Like, this Nolan situation made me realize that there are a lot of white people where, when obviously racialized things happen like this, they try to spin it like black people have this anti-white agenda. They're trying to make it seem as if a simple boating accident was this hate crime, which, like, it just doesn't make enough sense to say that it wasn't a hate crime. But like, I didn't realize that, like, they really try to take moments like this, like, oh, y'all are trying to make this an anti, like, really reverse racism. Y'all are trying to make this anti-white because something strange happened to him and no one is being honest about it, right? I think that he's like cannibalizing, he's self-cannibalizing, and he really wants, it's kind of like that one poem or whatever where it's like they came for the teachers and they came for the gays and they came for this person and they came for this person and then they came for me and there was no one to defend me because I didn't defend. It's one of those things where it's like he just wants blackness eradicated. I feel like he just hates to see it. Like, I wonder, does he have a lot of very loudly anti-black takes? Like, something about this is just like, if you're black, nothing for you. Like,
if you're black, nothing for you. But if you're white, there's something for you. In the world, white is right, but black is wrong.
Yeah, it's really not going to, I'm telling you, it's not going to be till he hits hard times and he's like, wow, I actually took it too far. There's a part of me that feels like these children, I don't know. There's a part of me that feels like he might have known these people in some capacity, but I don't think he necessarily knew them in depth. I would not believe him if he said that he's never seen or interacted with these people ever. But I'm not gonna say that they were like his next door neighbor. Like, was that a talking point? Like I said, I don't actually know the ins and out of the interview or whatever that he said or that he did. I don't think he would have known them well enough. For example, let's say you go to church with someone and you don't talk to them, but you see them every single Sunday. So it's definitely that kind of thing of like, I've probably seen you before, I probably interacted with you before. Maybe these kids on the vice versa know him, right? But they don't necessarily know the ins and out and like whatever. And it might even be that they're trying to downplay how much they know each other or how familiar they would have been. I honestly wonder if I almost get this energy of, I wonder if these kids have even been racist to him, like said racist things about him online. That's what I'm saying. It definitely feels like there's some form of familiarity, but also trying to make it seem like it's not that much when it's a lot more than probably what we see or what we know. It might have even been maybe before the interview they ran certain questions, like maybe they had certain in-depth talks about what they were going to talk about. That's what I'm saying. Like, it definitely kind of seems like there's more to it than what we can see. This might even come out later. I don't know. This might get leaked, especially if this is like certain things. Like I said, people just happen to see certain things or share certain things. Like, there's more information about that. To where it's like, this is definitely manipulated a lot more than we would have understood in that time. Like I said, there was probably a real agenda or a real trying to protect these children. That kind of proves that there is a certain level of bias, which you can kind of guess, but you might not necessarily have concrete proof of, especially for people who are deniers, that they're hiding something. There's definitely hiding something about their relationship, how well they know each other, what they said, or exactly. I don't know if this is even like edited out parts of the interview that could get leaked. You find out certain things. Yeah. This is one of those ones where I'm like I said, everything I said is hypothetical, alleged. I don't know if he could watch this. There's part of me that feels like this is definitely one of the ones where, I don't say that about everybody, but there's some people where I'm like, you'll probably see this at some point in time. I would not be surprised if he sees this video. I real life would not be surprised. But yeah, I will see you guys in the next one.